So after the war, he told me they put him on a train with a suitcase, got off at Union Station, and there was nowhere to go except that some Quakers, some friends, a religious group, took them in and gave them a place to stay briefly until they could get their own jobs and things. And so they ended up getting jobs, menial jobs, but were able to afford a room in a rooming house. It was really a brothel downtown Los Angeles, and they had a room there. And he was describing how he grew up for a couple of years in the brothel, and but that's all they could do. And then they saved up enough money to move out, get their own place. He then went to UCLA, graduated right about the time the Korean War started, and he joined the Air Force and served in the Korean War.
He did too. He was in the Korean War.
I didn't know that.
Well, I volunteered in 1948 because they still had the draft. If you're drafted, you serve 21 months of active duty and then another 5 years of reserve duty. And that meant once a year for 2 weeks you go on training. So I decided I didn't want to do that, so I volunteered. And then a year later I was in Japan, assigned to Japan, spent a year there, and then the Korean War started. And as they say, many are called, but few are chosen. So this buddy and I went over there.
So this gentleman I was talking to, similar experience. Then he came back and he got a job doing a couple other things. But anyway, he ended up working for the LA County Probation Department. And he was a probation officer for like 30-some years and then retired. But I remember his story. It was very interesting. He was an interesting person.
Back in the 60s, I was working for this company here. It's where the Target is now, off of Raymer.
Yeah.
It was near there. And the company was doing government contracts, and so a Navy auditor came in. And he was a Chinese American. We got to talking about the evacuation, and he said, I'm really afraid they're going to do the same thing to us one of these days. Because our relations with China were such, and that never happened.
They'll do it. They won't do it again.
No.
They won't do it again.
How was your experience in the Korean War?
It was dirty. South Korea is mostly agricultural. North Korea is mostly industrial. Because in North Korea they have this river that provides a lot of hydroelectric power. So most of the industry is in North Korea. And I spent some time in North Korea. And it is so cold. It's even farther north than, it's closer to the pole than New York City is.
Cold.
And we got kicked out of there by the Chinese. We left North Korea on Christmas Day. And took a ship all the way down to South Korea and then worked our way back up. I was there 15 months.
What unit were you in? What did you do?
It was a 10th Corps. I was in the Corps level. That's the next level behind the front line. We had a young kid from Hawaii, part of our unit, and every day he begged one of the officers to let him join the infantry on the front line because he wanted to go home. He went home in a pine box. They finally granted him what he wanted. He went to the front line and got killed.
Surprised that it even came up, because this is ancient history, really. And I understand that today the kids aren't really getting much in the way of history.
Well, that's not all school.
Well, the public schools in general.
And the history that's taught is changed. The focus is different than it was when I was going to
Yeah.
school. There's different emphasis,
Yeah.
different slants as far as how they.
Well, it's the technology
Approach it.
too. Use computers.
That's one of the reasons it should be that everything is going so fast now
Yeah.
that,
When do you have to do this report?